Hola, hola, ladies, and welcome back to the Rise Differently podcast. I'm your host, Iris Canela. And ladies, it's been a while. Oh my goodness, where do we start? Because I know for those of you who are in the Soul Rising newsletter community, you are pretty much up to date with everything that's happening in the behind the scenes of what I've been up to. And I know that I have promised so much here. And first off, I just want to say, there is a lot coming, I promise. And for those of you who are calling this like a little mini break, a hiatus, I guess we could call that. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I am here to update you all about everything that's been happening behind the scenes and also just like dropping in this wisdom of reminding all of you that I am also figuring it out as all of you are currently doing in your own lives. And I think sometimes that when we come on here, whether it's in social media, on podcasts, or any type of outlet that you go out for your own resources to improve and to seek guidance, right? We tend to think on the other side as someone who is consuming the information that the other person who is giving the information has it all figured out. As I pour into this podcast, as I pour into you, as I pour into each soul that shows up here because we are ready to stop overproving and want to live a more aligned life that is aligned to our own truth, not based on what our families or our cultural expectations or societal expectations places on us, but we're here to live based on our truth. And as I share all of this reflections, wisdoms, little nuggets, as you want to call it, I just want to be a reminder to you all that I am not an expert, but I'm here to provide guidance. I'm here to provide the perspective of a 34-year-old who is still navigating life, who is embracing the pivoting of all the different careers that she's had and is still figuring out what is next for her. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I don't know what I want next. And so I feel like a lot of this podcast, as I come on here and as I share each episode, it's literally bringing you guys along the journey of how I'm figuring out life for myself. And I'm hoping that whatever I'm receiving in these lessons in my own personal life is going to serve you. So let's get back to the episode because I'm really excited to share that I just recently went to Japan and it has been one of the most beautiful experiences, most unexpected experience that I have ever felt. And I know that in the last episode, I mentioned that I was going to share more recordings about specific things. But before we go there, I feel like this episode needs to be aired out first, just because of every little synchronized moment that was felt when I was in that space, in that environment in Japan. And so, where do we get started? Okay, so I know that I have been traveling a lot on the road and I have been on many, many flights. For those of you who recall, I was in New Mexico celebrating my birthday, also being able to receive new life coming into our family, which is my baby nephew. And I have been back and forth with going to Nuevo Mexico. I went back home to Cali for a little bit and I went to Japan. So Japan was kind of up in the air. It was TBD, to be honest with you, because for those of you who know what it's like to fly standby, that's exactly what I did. My husband and I, we had this plan of going to Japan, but nothing was guaranteed. And so we kind of just went forward with it. And for those of you who know me, I am a planner. I like knowing what's going to happen. But this time around, I allowed myself to just see what was going to happen. I was open to allowing myself to just allowing the universe, God, to surprise me in all ways. And I'm so glad that I took that approach because as I spoke to other people who have been to Japan, the most common theme that I got was get lost in Tokyo. And my client who's out there also said that to me. And shout out to her because she is truly amazing and gave me so many great recommendations. And so, yeah, I went with that mindset of I'm going to get lost in Tokyo. And I didn't know what that meant. And so I just allowed myself to fully embrace whatever was to come. And so I left North Carolina, which is my home base for now, and I went over to California, got to see my brother for a little bit, my best friend, and honestly just took in all of that beautiful quality time that I got to spend with loved ones and being in a place that will forever be home to me. And so my brother was kind enough to take me in. I stayed with him for the day and then he drove me to SFO, which is in San Francisco, the next day. And I got to meet my husband there. And so Again, nothing was guaranteed. Metimos las maletas, right? Like we made sure that our luggages were checked in and we went off. We went to the gate. We were very excited. And I know that my heart was feeling pumped for this trip, right? But my husband, being very cautious, was like, remember, we don't know what's going to happen. Please promise me you're not going to get disappointed if we can't go. Let's just see how it goes one step at a time. But my heart knew, okay, you guys, that we were going to make this flight. I didn't know how. I didn't know how we would even be on the other side to be able to have a guaranteed seat, but I trusted in that very moment. And I remember also previously having a conversation with my two really great amigas who also told me, like, nah, you're going to speak as if you are going. And so I had that mindset already. And I also believed it wholeheartedly with my heart that we were going to make it. And so as we're waiting last minute, okay, this is like maybe 10 minutes before boarding is happening, doing last minute things, sending off things for my client and all that stuff, just so that way I could be fully present in Japan. And my husband, is like waiting patiently. I'm waiting patiently to see if something comes up on my phone, some sort of notification that says, you got a seat, all right? And as I try not to freak out because I'm like, oh my gosh, it's close to boarding. Am I going to go on this plane? Did my husband get a seat? I just don't know. But I kept my mind preoccupied because I do believe that energy is everything. And so in that very moment, I was really trying to stay grounded and still remind myself of the words that my amigas told me and also what I felt in my heart that I was like, no, we are going on this trip, okay? Like this trip is going to happen. I kept telling myself that. And I'm like, you know what? Whenever I feel anxious, I'm just going to stay a little busy so my energy doesn't get focused on the negative. And amigas, I'm so happy to say that I made it. Okay. I got the last seat, you guys, to this plane that was going to Japan. And my husband had already gotten a notification way beforehand, but was just waiting for me to have the confirmation. And it was just such an exciting moment. We were so freaking excited and we got onto that plane. And let me tell you, I could not sleep. Okay. I watched a bunch of movies. I wish I could be a reader, but I get motion sickness in the plane, so I cannot do it. I was able to chat up with a stranger that sat next to me who was kind enough to later then switch seats with my husband. And so I got to sit with my husband as well. And then we landed in Japan. It was just an incredible feeling because the moment that we landed, it's like my heart, my soul, my body felt that we had already belonged there. And I cannot explain that in a different way because I have gone to many other places and I've traveled. And let me tell you, there are very few places where I feel sacred and at home, which is Guanajuato, Mexico, Tulum, and Italy. I love those three places, but I will definitely say that Japan has made that sacred list into there because I have been to other places too where my heart, my body has said, heck no, this is not somewhere that I want to come back to, or I just don't feel at home here. I appreciate for coming to the land, but that's it, right? And so it was just incredible to feel at the moment that I landed and the way that I was navigating the city as if I had already been there, as if my soul had already been there. And so I was really amazed, one, with that. Two, I usually get some sort of food poisoning type of thing. And thank God that none of that happened. So I was so happy that I got to enjoy the food and all of the things that I got to receive in this trip. And it was just so beautiful because where do I even begin? I feel like one of the most significant moments in that trip, besides all of the things that I got to spend time with my husband, we got to spend time with friends and new friends, we got to see and explore a new, different country and the culture and the people, which was amazing, by the way, was this little beach town in Kamakura, which is about an hour of a train ride away from Tokyo. And it was just so incredible because the moment that we got there, it is like a small town vibe. And if you know me, that is my vibe, okay? That is my personal preference. I love the city, but am like a suburb girl where I like to be in the middle of like, okay, I got access to the city, but I'm also in a town, if that makes sense, okay? So Kamakura was that, but the plus of that was that there is a beach and there is a big Buddha temple that's there as well. And so many people go there for that specifically. And I remember we were going on our way there, right? And then my friend happens to see the cutest coffee little van shop. And so we go there to get our cafecito. And the woman that was serving us and the man that was serving us as well were just so kind to us, okay, so patient. And I just remember making conversation with this woman. And even though her English was limited, it's like our body language was just speaking to one another, and that felt enough. And I just remember the little bit of conversation that we exchanged. She asked me if I was going to the Big Buddha. I said yes. She said, okay, keep going forward. Keep going straight because you're going to find the answers you seek and it's going to be more beautiful. Keep going. More shrines, more temples, small, beautiful. You're going to get your answers. And I thought to myself, this woman is giving me the response, the answer that my soul has been secretly wanting so badly the past, I want to say, couple months, maybe even now a year. And so I just remember being very excited to go to see the Big Buddha, but I also told my husband, like, we got to go straight because she mentioned that there's other beautiful shrines and temples that we got to go see. And even my husband kind of heard a little bit about what she was saying. And he was like, did I catch what she said? And I was like, yeah, I think we both understood it pretty clear. And so I was not sure about what it all meant. But as we exit out the Big Buddha and we're with our friends and somehow we all decide to like go our own ways, it's just me and my husband. We get an ice cream. We start walking around and, just kind of like explore without any type of like GPS or anything, right? We're just like allowing ourselves to see what we can find. And sure enough, my energy is called to look a particular way, which is a man going down the stairs, and I see a shrine. And I'm like, oh my gosh, babe, we gotta go there. Pero tenía mi nieve still. And so I just remember looking at the entrance and feeling this energy of like I needed to stop. And so I wanted to be very respectful because obviously shrines and temples are very sacred places. And so I didn't want to take my food or any of that. And so I looked at it from afar and I just felt this intense energy and presence there. And I just told my husband, like, we got to come back here after I'm done eating this ice cream because I feel that I need to come back here. And so I just remember bowing and thanking that space, that energy, and just feeling that there was an answer there for me. And so we went to the beach, we enjoyed the beach, we finished our little like nieve, and we decided to go back. And I go by myself. And I just remember bowing again before I enter the space and seeing this beautiful, beautiful, just like different, I don't know what they're called, but they're like stones with scriptures, right? And so, or at least the writing of whatever that significance is. And to be honest, I didn't translate it, but I just remember feeling like I am okay with where I'm at in my life and that it's okay to not figure out every step, that everything was going to come in its moment. And I really felt that. And I wanted to just like cry. And I felt so held by the energy, the ancestors, as some people would call it, that was existing in that place for me. And I feel like that was a very significant moment for me because lately, I have been reflecting a lot on my life. And although I am very proud of the decisions that I've made, some very hard, and I've overcome it, and I have been able to see so much and been blessed with so much, I have also noticed myself holding two things at the same time where I'm grateful, but I'm also grieving. Grieving of letting go of a career that I worked so hard for, which was my teaching career. And I was in that space for 8+ years. Was it the original plan that I wanted? No. Few people don't know this about me, but my bachelor's is in speech pathology and audiology, which is just a fancy way of saying speech pathologist. And that was the original dream. I wanted to be a speech therapist. I wanted to open up my own clinic. I wanted to help a lot of minority families to be able to have access to speech therapy care. And that was the original dream. But then life pivoted me to teaching, and I was able to grow a beautiful career in that for 8+ years until I knew in my heart and in my soul that it was time to change it. And so I went into the corporate world where I also got to wet my feet in different spaces like sales, customer success. I've done a little bit of community management. And then I became an entrepreneur to try to grow my coaching business. And even with all that being said, I feel called to shift in a different way. And I just don't know what that means yet. I don't know if it means pausing on coaching. I don't know if it means looking into something different, going back to corporate. And so my heart has felt very heavy because as someone who has planned out a lot of her life, that I thought that I would be in a different place. I have held grief a lot this year where I've felt it, and even last year, while also feeling grateful for being able to have so much time with my husband, to be able to explore the world the way that I have, the way that I've been able to be given the opportunity to try to grow a business and allow myself to be seen in a way that I've never been seen before. Yet it being very frightening and scary because I don't know what the results of all of these outcomes are going to be. And also knowing that I have these dreams and visions and all of these expectations in my mind of what I want my life to look like, and not being there yet. So when I was in that space, and going back to that, when I received that answer, I felt at peace. I felt, most importantly, relief that it's okay to not have everything figured out, and that there is something greater planned for me. And so that relief and wanting to cry in that very moment was out of a place of true groundingness. And I just remember leaving that space feeling hopeful and high energy, and feeling that things are truly going to be okay, and that I am more supported more than ever. And as I say that, right, I see a bunch of ladybugs flying on my window. There's about one right now. And even yesterday, there's been three. I don't know what it is about ladybugs, but they have been coming to me lately a lot. And I always find that as a confirmation that something is confirming that what I'm saying is in alignment to my truth. And so to go back to Japan, it was just an incredible feeling and experience to be able to be exposed to that type of energy that just comforted me so much. And I want to say it's God. Some people will say ancestors. Whatever it is, it comforted me in that very moment. And I'm so grateful that I got to feel that, along with being able to meet people who are so proud of what they do, whether it's owning their own little tea shop, their coffee shop, having their own sushi restaurant, lo que sea, right? I met people who were just so prideful and so joyful about what they do. They owned their craft. And I just remember being in space with these people and thinking, I want to feel that again. I want to feel proud of what I do, and to be able to not just diminish my life by saying, oh, I'm just a little entrepreneur, I'm just a little coach, because it's not a full on set career and I don't have these high titles. And I know that I've done that to myself since pivoting from my educator role. And I just remember these people owning and saying, like, I do this, and I'm so proud to be able to serve a cup of tea with all the herbs that are made for the teas growing from my garden. And that joy that she had to serve us, because she knew her craft was so needed, so unique, and that she did it out of a place of love and being proud of it. And it got me thinking that sometimes when you live in a place like America, people don't really do that, because people value the high titles and how much you're making, and they ask those type of questions versus asking what it is that you're really good at. What's your craft? And show me your craft. And I celebrate you for your craft and for being able to expose this to the world. And being in that energy in Japan where people are genuinely proud of that, that just like reminded me and humbled me a bit about being able to come back home and saying, let's explore what my craft is again and be proud of it. And so I'm redefining a lot of things and still processing a lot of this, because when you're on the move, it's really hard to process everything that you experience. But I still feel like I'm in the high from that travel. And it's just something that I feel so grateful for, that I hope that more women of color get to experience, because even when I think about travel, right? I'm so grateful because, travel was not very common in my family, unless, like, yes, we did many road trips around California. And yes, I did some few trips to go back to my parents' native homeland. But travel wasn't a very big thing where my family would talk about going to Europe or going to Asia or going to all these different places. If anything, that seed was planted from a white couple that I met when I was only like 9, 10 years old. And their name was Jack and Doris. And I will never forget them because I remember going in the summer to work with my dad because my dad used to work in construction and had his own, business with that. And so I remember Jack and Doris showing me this like beautiful like cabinet filled with souvenirs and all of their pictures of all the different places that they've been in the world and telling me that that also was accessible to me, that I can go and explore the world and see what people do in other places and bring back these little like treasures so I can remember these trips always. And I just remember being like, I can't wait to be like them. And I can't wait to bring my own souvenirs back home, which, for the longest time ever, I used to collect glass like shots or shot glasses. There you go, shot glasses. And now I'm out of that phase, right? I don't do that anymore. Pero I collect a lot of magnets now. And so when you come to my home and you see my fridge, it is full of all the places that either I have gone to or it's been me and my husband have gone to. And I'm just so grateful because I also recognize that that is a privilege that most people don't get to do. But by living the way that I live because of what someone else planted in me, I am also that seed for other people, which was really cool because when I got back home to New Mexico to visit my family for a week because my sister also graduated, which is going to be another podcast episode for that because I feel like even just that experience in itself was so wholesome. I was able to interact with a little girl that I had never met before. And I just remember talking to her about Japan because she was really into anime. And I just remember telling her, like, you have the same opportunity as I do. And one day you are going to go to Japan. And my mom told me, I think 2 days later, about how this little girl told her mom that because her prima, I guess she referred to me as prima, she was like, my prima went to Japan, mom. And you know what? One day that's going to be me. And that really lightened up my heart because I'm like, wow, like who would have known that just a tiny little interaction, a tiny little comment like that planted a seed in her heart. And the same seed that planted in mine from a white couple named Jack and Doris who told me that it was possible for me. And now, 20 plus years later, I'm traveling the world and seeing places and having these beautiful experiences where I get to reconnect with myself in a different way. And I get to bless other people by exposing it, by sharing my stories and planting seeds in them so they can one day hopefully do it too. And it makes me emotional as I say that because as I share this, travel is, yes, a blessing and such a big opportunity for many of us. But as a first generation, high achieving Latina with a Mexican background, it's like that is one of my ancestors and my family's wildest dream that I got to achieve in this lifetime. And so it makes me very grateful to be able to one, experience it, but two, live it. Like it's one of those things where I get to truly embody every aspect of what travel has to offer for me and meeting strangers who have messages for me where I truly do feel God's presence in each person that we interacted with. And I'm just really grateful for it. I guess when I go back to what I mentioned earlier about get lost in Tokyo, I guess what I'm trying to say here is that I was feeling lost before I went there. And I feel like as I landed in Japan, and even though I felt very lost, in some ways I feel like Japan blessed me and saved me by showing me that I'm not as lost as what I thought. And that even if I feel lost, that I'll always find my way back home. And home referring to coming back to myself again. And I'm really grateful for it because it also gave me permission to remember that it's okay to dream up a new dream, which was another thing that came up in Japan that I'm like, I was blessed to receive the message of it's okay to dream a new dream again and that you don't have to hold on so tightly to what you've already known or what feels familiar and where you feel like you got to push through to prove a point to people to say, I did it. See, like I did it because this was the original goal. No, Japan gave me the permission of it's okay to dream a new dream. It's okay to say that this didn't work out, but I tried. I tried with all of my heart. I tried with all of my most purest intentional energy. I tried. And that is enough. And so I want to relay that message to all of my high achiever, first generation, eldest daughters. Fill in the blank for that, because I think many of us, we have a hard time giving ourselves permission to dream a new dream, to just try no matter what the outcome is going to be, to experience life at its fullness, even if it means holding two things at the same time of grief and feeling very blessed to have certain things in your life. And so I want you to know that it's okay to not have everything figured out and that you're not as lost as you think. And even when you do feel a little lost, just remember that you can always find home again, which is you will always find who you are again. But I think the most important thing here is being honest with ourselves, being able to share our truth, even if it makes us a little vulnerable, as you felt me in this episode, okay? But that's okay, because that's part of the process of how we return back to ourselves. And that is how we stop over proving to other people and start living by our truth and start living with even more alignment, which makes life even more richer, in my opinion. And even when I think about what my 80-year-old self will think about in the future when she sees this video again, is she's just going to be so proud because we tried and did the most that we could with life. And that's the whole point, at least for me. And so I just wanted to share that experience with you. Japan was truly amazing. I highly recommend Japan, okay? Not just from a spiritual lens, but a cultural lens and all of the beautiful things that travel has to offer. It was just such a soul filling, recharging trip that I needed. And I just can't wait to go back one day because I feel like there's more for me out there. And there's so much more that I wish that I can share, but I feel like that is the biggest highlight that I felt I needed to share with each and one of you. So I hope you felt it con todo tu corazón. I cannot wait to put out more of these episodes. Thank you all for your patience. And for those of you who are not in the Soul Rising newsletter community, les invito to it. I invite you to it because that is where I'm writing more in real time, and you're going to get more of this beforehand when I go into the podcast episode. So sign up, send it to an amiga, send it to your mama, send it to your sisters, send it to a friend who really, really needs this and that is in the same boat as us. Because at the end of the day, I want to be that reminder that no estamos solas, we're not alone. And so the more that we come together and we get to share these type of resources to other women and share our stories, my hope is that it will help you continue to move forward in your own soul journey and for you to rise in a different way. All right, amigas, pues, I'll see you all in the next episode y cuídense mucho. Bye.